The alarms echoed like a living heartbeat through the royal spires, crimson lights slicing across corridors of glass and gold. Guards sprinted in perfect synchronization, their psychic links sharing every order before a single word could be spoken. Yet for all their coordination, Princess Liara Vel always slipped through their fingers. Tonight was no different. A trail of deactivated drones marked her path, their sensors mysteriously offline, their flight paths scrambled. Liara moved like smoke through a vented corridor, bare feet silent against the obsidian floors. Her gown shimmered faintly with static from the teleport fields she'd bypassed. She didn't even flinch when a warning siren blared. The noise in her head was louder. Millions of minds brushed against hers, attendants worried about her reputation, generals scheming for her future, ministers plotting who she should marry. Their emotions layered over one another until her skull throbbed with pressure. She whispered to herself, "Just a little longer." The service tunnels of the lower decks greeted her like an old friend, narrow, dim, unpolished, free of psychic static. She slid open a maintenance hatch and dropped down into the janitorial level, where the hum of machinery drowned out the voices. There, bent over a flickering conduit with a toolkit in hand, was Marcus Hale. He looked up in surprise, face lit by the glow of a faulty power line. "Your Highness! Again?" His voice carried both exasperation and quiet fondness. Liara didn't answer. She simply walked toward him, her silken gown dragging through oil stains and dust, and sat down beside him like a child returning home. He sighed, setting down his wrench. "You know they'll have my head for this." Her eyes glowed faintly, the silver light of her species dimming to a soft blue. "Then I'll make sure they don't." She rested her head in his lap before he could protest. The moment her skin touched his uniform, the mental storm vanished. The billions of voices gone. The universe fell still. Marcus stayed perfectly still, uncertain what to do. He'd fought on half-dead colonies before, patched together oxygen systems with nothing but tape and prayer, but nothing unnerved him like a telepathic alien princess using him as a pillow. He glanced around. "You can't keep doing this, Liara. Someone's going to notice." "They always notice, and they never understand." Her words were slurred, half lost to sleep. Marcus exhaled slowly, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "She just needs quiet," he muttered to himself, as if explaining her to the empty air. When the guards finally arrived, 4 armored Velari soldiers glowing with psionic energy, they froze at the sight, the royal heir of their empire, barefoot and asleep in the lap of a human janitor, smiling in her dreams. Marcus raised his hands calmly. She came here on her own. Again. The guards hesitated, uncertain whether to arrest him or salute him. Above them, the twin suns of Athian began to rise, their light spilling through the maintenance window. 2 halos around an impossible friendship.
Liara awoke to the low hum of machinery and the faint smell of oil. For a few seconds, she simply listened to nothing. No whispers, no emotions pressing against her skull. Just silence and the rhythmic pulse of the palace engines far below. It was bliss. Then reality returned. The muffled footsteps of guards in the hallway above, the faint shimmer of psychic wards resetting after her latest escape. She didn't care. Every moment in this quiet corner felt like stolen life. Marcus was sitting nearby, tinkering with a ventilation panel, pretending not to notice her. He always did that, gave her the dignity of not being watched. "You fixed it again," she said softly, sitting up. He shrugged, wiping his hands on a rag. Air systems don't like Volari humidity. Everything here's built too delicate. She smiled faintly. Like my people. He chuckled. Didn't say it, but yeah. Liara studied him. Human faces were so expressive, every emotion visible, unguarded. Among the Volari, emotion was shared through empathy waves, subtle pulses of feeling woven into the chorus. But humans had no chorus, no shared emotions. To her kind, they were psychically invisible, like shadows in a bright room. That was why she sought him out. Ever since her mother's death, the chorus had become unbearable. The collective empathy of billions crashed through her mind like a flood without walls. She could hear them all, their pity, their hunger for power, their envy of her position. No meditation or neural dampener could silence it. But Marcus... The first time she'd brushed against his mind, she'd felt nothing. It was like plunging into deep water after a lifetime of wind and fire. He was a void, steady, warm, and untouched by the chorus. And in that void, she could finally breathe. "Why do you do this?" Marcus asked suddenly. "You could have anything. Peace chambers, mental shields, medicine. Why come down here?" Liara hesitated. "Because none of that is real peace." She looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly with empathic light. "Your mind is quiet, Marcus. Empty, but kind. You don't want anything from me. Do you know what that's worth where I come from?" He didn't answer right away. He just leaned back, glancing at the ceiling. "Where I come from? That's called decency. But I guess that's rare up there, huh?" Liara smiled, a genuine one this time. Rarer than starlight. Above them, the hum of the palace softened as the shift cycles changed. Somewhere far away, the Queen's advisors argued over trade wars and expansion routes. Down here, in the forgotten underbelly of the Dominion, a human janitor and a telepathic princess sat in shared silence, two beings from opposite ends of power, connected by the one thing neither empire nor biology could replicate: peace. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the faint hiss of the repaired vent, and Liara, her voice barely above a whisper. "When I'm with you, the galaxy stops screaming." Marcus didn't reply, but his quiet presence said everything.
By dawn, the entire palace knew. Rumors rippled through the Volari Dominion faster than light. The Princess of Empathy had once again been found in the arms of a human, a janitor no less. Servants whispered in corridors. Courtiers pretended outrage while secretly savoring the scandal. To the Volari elite, humans were curiosities, useful laborers, occasionally brave soldiers, but always less. The idea that one of them had touched the royal heir was unthinkable. The summons came within the hour. Marcus was escorted to the upper palace by two guards clad in psionic armor. He said nothing, though his stomach churned. The corridors here gleamed too bright, smelled too clean. It wasn't a place for men who fixed pipes. At the far end of the throne chamber, the royal council waited. 12 beings of light and mind, their forms flickering with empathic resonance. Liara stood among them, her head bowed. "Human," intoned the High Chancellor, his voice echoing inside Marcus's skull, not his ears. "You are accused of psychic manipulation of the royal heir and contamination of the empathic chorus." Marcus frowned. "I don't even know what half that means. I just clean the ducts." Laughter rippled through the council, cold and mental, like static scraping his brain. "Silence,"
hissed the Chancellor. "Do not mock this proceeding. You have infected our air with your emptiness." That word, emptiness, made Liara flinch. She stepped forward, voice trembling, but her conviction did not. Ever since Mother's death, the chorus has been unbearable. The voices never stop. The pain, the ambition, the fear. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. She turned toward Marcus. But near him, the noise fades. His mind doesn't intrude, doesn't demand, doesn't speak. He gives me silence, and in that silence, I find myself again. Murmurs rippled through the council like psychic thunder. The Chancellor snapped. Blasphemy, to call the void sacred. Liara's glow brightened, her empathy field expanding with her rising emotion. The chamber trembled. "You call it void because you've forgotten what peace feels like." Guards stepped forward. Marcus instinctively moved between them and Liara. An act that drew gasps from the telepaths. A human defending royalty was madness. "Don't," he warned quietly. "You'll only make it worse." But it was already too late. The council ordered Marcus's immediate imprisonment, citing contamination of royal cognition. As the guards seized him, Liara's composure shattered. Her empathy exploded outward, a psychic scream that shook the crystalline walls. Every mind in the palace felt her anguish like a blade through the soul. The queen herself clutched her head, her own empathy bleeding from the shock. Through the chaos, Marcus managed one last glance at Liara as he was dragged away. She looked broken, glowing tears tracing down her cheeks. He whispered, barely audible, "Hey, kid. Breathe. I'll be fine." But she didn't hear him. The chorus was already roaring again, louder than ever. And somewhere deep in the palace cells, Marcus Hale began to realize just how much noise one human silence had made.
The palace dungeons were built for monsters, entities whose thoughts could melt walls and warp gravity. Marcus Hale didn't belong there. He sat quietly on the cold metal floor, his hands cuffed, his mind as still as ever. No one came to see him. No one dared. Above him, the Vihari capital burned with psychic tension. The council had sealed off the palace, terrified that the air's outburst had fractured the empathic chorus, the mental network that united their species. For the first time in Vihari history, the chorus was unstable, filled with static and echoes of Liara's scream. And in that static, something new was spreading. Silence. Liara hadn't spoken since Marcus's arrest. The palace healers tried to reach her through empathy links, but she refused to open her mind. Her once glowing eyes had dulled to gray. The queen watched her daughter fade, torn between duty and love. "You are the heir," the queen said softly. "You cannot risk our entire species for one human." Liara looked up, her voice barely a whisper. "Then what's the point of being heir, Mother, if I can't even choose who I am?" She stood, the faint hum of her empathy reawakening, not the harmonious song of a Villari monarch, but the sharp, pulsing rhythm of defiance. When she entered the council chamber, every telepath in the room felt her presence like a storm front. The Chancellor tried to speak, but Liara's gaze silenced him. "Release him," she ordered. "This human threatens the chorus," the Chancellor protested. "No," she said, "you threaten it. You've turned our unity into tyranny. You've forgotten that silence has its place in every song." And with that, she tore open the council's mental lattice. Empathic light burst through the chamber, flooding every mind in the city. Billions of Villari felt her truth, her grief, her loneliness, and the serene quiet she had found in one human's presence. The illusion of perfection shattered, replaced by the raw simplicity of feeling. When the surge faded, every voice in the chorus fell still.
For the first time in recorded history, the Vihari mind link went silent and peaceful. The queen rose slowly from her throne, tears in her eyes. "Bring him to her," she whispered. Marcus didn't know why the guards released him. One minute he was sitting in darkness, the next a door opened and Liara was standing there. No crown, no guards, just a tired smile. "You're late," she said softly. "I missed my shift, I guess." She laughed, a quiet, shaky sound, and reached for his hand. The moment their fingers touched, the psychic field around them hummed with perfect harmony. The chorus, still fragile, steadied itself through her connection to him. In that instant, Liara ascended, not as a ruler of telepaths, but as the heir of two worlds. Her first decree would echo across the galaxy. From this day forward, silence shall be sacred. No species shall be judged for the noise or the quiet of their minds. And when the stars dimmed over the Vihari capital that night, the Empress was nowhere to be found. Down in the old maintenance tunnels, a human and an alien princess sat side by side, drinking synth coffee in comfortable quiet. No throne, no ceremony, just peace, finally, shared between two worlds.